Hi, welcome to Heart to Heart. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good.
Happy belated Thanksgiving, by the way.
Thank you. I was devastated not to spend Thanksgiving with my family this year because I was at TwitchCon.
Priorities.
Yeah, well, the thing is, TwitchCon didn't consider Canadian Thanksgiving in their choice of dates.
It always sneaks up on me as well, and I have an aunt and many cousins that live right by you. So yeah, it's usually sometime about the end of October that I think to wish them a happy Thanksgiving as well, just because a Monday in October does not seem like something that's ever going to be on an American's radar, I'm afraid.
Yes. So, so I didn't get the chance to be with my family for Thanksgiving, but I had the opportunity to meet lots of very wholesome and cool people at TwitchCon.
Well, that's good, and I hope you sort of had a delayed Thanksgiving with everyone.
Nope, but
Okay. Then a turkey dinner of some sort. Okay.
soon enough. So yes, have you ever been to TwitchCon?
I haven't. I've barely been out of the house the last 5 years. So yeah, it's we used to back in the day. We used to go not to TwitchCon, but we did tournaments for years and went to DreamHack several times. One of the last ones we went to was DreamHack Montreal, that I went with the kids, and we were there 2017, I want to say. Visited my aunt, who I hadn't seen in a number of years, and beautiful Montreal, and found out that my 4 years of high school French couldn't even sort of work well enough to get me a cup of coffee. So
Well, I'm sure you can practice that.
yeah, I should have brushed up on it more just for this. Bonjour, comment ça va?
Oui.
Mon stylo est jaune.
Ah, your
Où est
pen
la bibliothèque?
is yellow.
Yeah. There you go. My pencil is yellow. I can do it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay, so well that's pretty cool. I've never been to
yeah.
DreamHack in Montreal, so it should be on my bucket list.
It was very nice. I miss the days we used to go around. Back when Cora would be doing tournaments and casting, and my son Sage, who was very good when we would bring him along, or I'd send him with Cora, and he'd actually be able to compete. It was a lot of fun. The events were fantastic. You met so many good people and so many really interesting casters that would work with Cora, that it was great. It was really a lot of fun.
Nice. Because Cora was a caster before being a game designer.
For years, yeah. Cora went from the brief history was she got on the radio speaking team in high school, won a state championship her senior year, went to college for a broadcast communication degree, and while she was finishing up her degree, Blizzard had a So You Think You Can Cast competition for Hearthstone that she entered. They sent out stock footage of a game, and you had to put in your own commentary to it and send it in. And they flew her and a few other people out to California to test them to see how they do at actual events, and that immediately turned into sort of an unexpected career for her. So yeah, it was really an exciting thing.
Yeah, I wish you could do that again.
Oh, to bring in new yeah, hopefully one day. I know that was unique in that it was sort of like she'd been playing Hearthstone forever. Sage had actually discovered it, my son, first, and then sort of shown it to her when it was still in beta. So they both got very active into playing the game. And there's a lot of downtime when you're at college. So, she'd have a lot of time in the dorm and a lot of time to just sort of, play the game and try and explore her own interests. And got really good at the game and really excited about it. And so when the opportunity came up, and my daughter can do anything she wants to, so it was absolutely no surprise whatsoever that she ended up winning the competition, and for several years traveled the whole world casting all different events. She went to Poland, she went to China, she went to France, she went to Canada, doing all kinds of events, and really it was a great opportunity. But at some point, a lot of travel and taking her to the airport every week and going back and forth, all these different places, and never really knowing sort of what the next event was that was on the horizon was a little bit, grating. It was a tough life. So when the opportunity came up that there was a job opening at Blizzard that they were, looking for designers, somebody said, hey, you should apply. And I think she sort of dismissed it at first because it wasn't, again, a career that she sort of had on her radar at the time. And Blizzard jobs are in such high demand that, one opening for an associate designer, you'll get thousands of applicants. And so again, she's my daughter. So is it any surprise whatsoever that, she got that 1 in 1,000 opportunity and is doing exactly what she'd be doing if she didn't have a job right now, which is playing Hearthstone all the time. So no, it went great.
So if we go back to like the last card reveal I had with Cora this spring, I believe.
Yeah, she's still in therapy over that. So
yes, okay. What was, because we wanted to know what happened in the behind the curtains of that situation. So what, after the interview, what happened? We want to know the details.
Yeah, so the whole, behind the screen story, that was set up by Alkali Lake, who, messaged me on Twitch, and then I spoke to her on the phone, and she had this idea to play a practical joke on Cora. And she had a card in the upcoming set, the Voyage to the Sunken City, that seemed really perfect for what she had in mind, and she wanted to know if I'd be willing to do a card reveal that was sort of tongue-in-cheek and to do something that was going to be surprised and sprung on Cora while she was being interviewed by you. So yeah, it was like, sure, me do a card reveal? Of course. Why not? That'd be great. So I put the video together and we arranged sort of when it would drop into your stream, and with a couple of technical difficulties, it sort of, finally worked out really well. Cora had no idea, which was exactly what everybody was hoping for. And her reaction was perfect, because if you go back and watch that video and you see her in complete disbelief, I think at some point I grabbed pictures of it and posted, the 7 stages of grief, which she was going through, denial and anger and acceptance and all the different things. And she, up until she actually saw the card, she absolutely was convinced I didn't actually get a card to reveal, because it would have been absurd. She was a little stunned. She was shocked. Was there any actual friction between us over it? No. As much as, there are times I might sort of push the envelope and cross the line a little, as far as the jokes and the bits that I do online, interacting with her and Blizzard and everything else. We have a really good relationship. Both of my kids, I think, would tell you that, begrudgingly. But no, my kids and I are very similar, which, is good and bad sometimes. But no, the card reveal went great. Afterwards, everything was fine. People were messaging me as going, okay, do you need a safe house to live in for a couple of days? And no, everything went just fine. And I think the community took it really well, which was really nice.
It was very funny. I couldn't stop laughing myself, and I was supposed to be the serious one.
Yes, watching you go through the whole thing was just hilarious. It was fantastic. No, going back now and watching it is worth it. Once in a while, you sort of revisit it, and it was, people have said it's the greatest card reveal in Hearthstone history, and considering I will probably never, ever, ever get another one, I'll take that. So that's fine.
So I think that maybe you can explain a little bit more why Cora was mad at you getting a card reveal, because if I'm not mistaken, like usually, like it's streamer, like people that work at Blizzard don't get card revealed. So I think there's a whole like history behind and a little story behind.
Sure. So the community team is involved along with the developers. And they have conversations, and they certainly want to make sure that they try and highlight deserving individuals. There are certainly big name streamers that will, do card reveals, and it's sort of expected, and it's great for the game because, they want the visibility as well. But I think Alkali Lake especially has done such a fantastic job of identifying some of the smaller streamers and content creators to give them something that brings such great focus on them that they have an opportunity to sort of showcase themselves a little bit, and it's absolutely not something anybody should ever expect. I don't care who you are, what you've done, how long you've been involved in Hearthstone. You don't want to have a sense of entitlement about it. You hope that they recognize it, and it's really a great honor. So the concern with giving it to me was I deserving? Oh goodness, no, of course not. But the way they were doing it was obviously a very special exception, given that both of my kids, as I tout myself, I am the world's foremost game designer creator, because I have not one, I have two kids that are currently working on Team 5 designing for Hearthstone. So I certainly piggyback along with their places in trying to sort of have some fun and do some content. But was I deserving of a card reveal? Oh, of course not. So the concern was giving it to me, even as a joke, even as something as a special circumstance, was it potentially going to upset anybody who might have felt that they were slighted because they were more deserving? And I understand that can happen, but it really didn't seem to be the case. I didn't run into anybody who had negative attitude about it or felt slighted. I think people really got in on it, thought it was done so well. Doing it the way they did while you were interviewing Cora was so priceless to be able to capture that moment that I think everybody really, really got behind it.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So someone in chat wants to know more in details about Cora's brothers at T5. So what's the difference between their two roles?
Yeah, so Sage, my son, is basically 2 years behind, 2 years younger as well than where Cora was 2 years ago. So when Cora got hired as an associate designer. That's the position my son currently has. Cora is now a senior designer. She has, there's unfortunately been some attrition at the Hearthstone team lately. Dean left, and the game director, and Liv has departed as well. So there's been some void left behind by some of the things that obviously they were working on. And Cora is, and again, my child, so I'll absolutely promote this and be glowingly admirable about her. She's amazing. She's incredible. She's smart. She's talented. She is fantastic in front of a camera, has such a great background in broadcasting that when you put her into a card reveal video, she's wonderful and fantastic. You put her in front of a camera and ask her about the set. You interview her on Heart to Heart, and she's great to work with. So Cora being able to sort of move up and fill the void to some extent that's been left behind is not unexpected. She's that good at it. Sage is going to be moving along, I'm sure, the same way she did. He's currently working on final design stuff. Cora had been doing a lot of initial design. Obviously, the expansion that we just had, the Murder at Castle Nathria set, was her expansion. She was the lead of the expansion. Obviously, she wasn't the only one who worked on it. So yeah, it's been a really exciting time to see everything that they're capable of doing. A lot of pressure, a lot of hard work, and I don't think a lot of people in the community understand that what my kids do for a living is not playing games all day. It's really stressful. It's really difficult. It's a lot of pressure, and being creative and being talented and being able to produce the work that they're putting out is really an accomplishment.
Would you say that Cora is your favorite child?
No, it's Sage. Sage is my no, of course not. No, I'm really fortunate. My wife and I, I've been married to the same unlucky poor woman, my wife Stephanie, for 31 years, and I have a son and a daughter, and have given me the variety and the experiences that you could ask for in life. And they are so unique. They are very much alike in many ways. They are also entirely their own people. They are both smart and talented, and obviously the fact that they're both designing for Hearthstone means they have a lot alike. But no, I couldn't pick either one. We don't need to do that.
Well, you could pick one, and your wife could pick the other one.
There. Then if we split up, we'll each take one. It'll be fine.
But if you had to pick, which one would you pick?
No. Honestly, you'd have to have the kids pick, and then.
Okay.
No, we don't need to do that.
Okay,
the dog is the one we'd all be fighting over.
Okay. I will definitely ask that question to Sage.
Sure. Go ahead. Which parent do you want to go with when they split up? Yeah, that's a great question. Go ahead. I heard your parents' marriage is falling apart. Which one are you
No,
going to
no,
live
no,
with?
no. Not split up. Like if you had to pick a favorite child, each of you not
I'm pretty
separated.
sure my adult children, because Cora had moved out to California, and we had actually gone through the process of relocating her and helping her find an apartment and going out and building furniture and setting up everything. And she was out there for about 6 months before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we were obviously concerned she was out there by herself, and we weren't sure there would be travel restrictions. And we had her come home in March 2.5 years ago, and thought it would just be for a while. And here they still are living in the bedrooms they grew up in. So yeah, they are 100% ready to not live with mom and dad anymore. So I'm pretty sure that they'll be fine with some distance going forward. So.
Okay. So my next question is a question I asked to Cora actually, and I'm gonna ask it to you to have your perspective on things. But so, what is like to have a dinner at your house with everyone or almost working or playing Hearthstone? So what are the main subject of discussion? I'm assuming it's Hearthstone.
We do talk about it. My wife is a fan. She's not really into the game as far as playing goes. Like I mentioned, Sage got into the game in beta, showed it to Cora. She got into it right away, and then sort of once it came out of beta and they'd sort of had some time with it, they both sort of showed it to me and said, "Hey, I think you'd like this." And so I'd been playing shortly after. But my wife doesn't have sort of quite the same interest in gaming that we have, so she really hasn't gotten into it. But she's watched every competition Cora was ever at, and my son was competing in DreamHacks when he would go along with. And so we certainly talk about it. Now, once in a while, passing in the hallway, Sage will say something like, "Hey, I'm working on a mage deck for this upcoming set. Do you have any ideas for a new mage legendary?" And I'll come up with something, and he'll look at me and say, "Oh, that's terrible," and then walk away. So often that's sort of the interaction. We will talk about things in general, how's work, how are things going, the stresses of the job, the difficulties of sort of understanding what they go through. Cora, as a set lead, was responsible for not just working on new cards for the set, but all of the set art and the theming and the design and the voice lines and all the little, sort of micromanaging you have to go through to create what ends up becoming that expansion. So it was fascinating to see it, because obviously, as much as I sometimes purport to be involved in these things, I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. But the intricacies and the details that she had to go through, managing to help create all of this was just incredible. It was so much. So yeah, we do talk about those things, and Hearthstone is a topic. But believe me, when the kids are Hearthstoning all day, sometimes they like to sort of get away from it when they're not working, because it is still a job.
Of course. And if we go to the social media aspect of things, I know that it's like a big part of the job, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's to like have the criticism of people online. And I think for the better or worse, you've been really good at tempering people on social media with your comments.
Yeah, so it's a fine line. Obviously, I have a bias behind this, but in all seriousness, it's not just social media. It's sort of been the evolution. It's gaming in general. We understand, and I certainly don't need to tell you anything about how gaming has been a relatively male-dominated experience for years and years and years, and there are still an awful lot of people out there who are so initially negative and abusive and misogynistic to women who are ever visible in this space, that it's just horrific to see. And Cora was a target forever and still is. Cora showing up and being a caster at these events, standing next to some of the big male casters that were very popular, whether it was Frodan or Admirable or Sottle or Raven or whoever, she sort of stood out a bit. And we would watch, the events that she was at, and we had to eventually do it with the chat window closed because the things that people would say were so unbelievably horrific that as her parents, you wanted to hunt them down and show them how unhappy you were with their behavior. And that unfortunately still, to a great extent, even after the years of what she's been doing with Blizzard and on a Hearthstone team, and as successful and talented as she is, she's still a target. And you still see people post things on social media, about how absurd. Somebody a couple weeks ago posted how somehow she got the job because she knew somebody, or like it was some sort of, absurd connection that she got hired and didn't deserve the position. And it's like, what are you talking about? She had to interview and go through the design tests and go through grinding it out to figure out that she was absolutely the perfect fit for the position. And there's still people out there that'll try and take that away from you. And it's is it ever going to change? God, I hope so. Probably not, because unfortunately, the internet and social media in general gives you such a safe haven of, anonymity that these people hide behind, that they feel so comfortable saying these terrible things because they don't think there's ever repercussions about it. It's part of what she's had to deal with that I will never completely understand, but believe me, as a parent, it's awful to see and sad, to be perfectly honest. And Sage is probably the smartest one of the group, because at this point Sage engages on social media almost not at all. So I'm sure he will as time goes by, because it is part of what I think they sort of expect a little bit as you become more visible with the job. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I couldn't possibly tell you what you must have gone through having to deal with it over all these years, but I've seen it. And as a parent, I really just can't even talk about it sometimes.
Yeah, it's horrible, but it's the way it is.
Shouldn't be.
I know.
We shouldn't.
Yeah,
it is the way it is, but hopefully that doesn't mean people out there are just accepting of it. But
no, of course
it
not.
Is, yeah, it is sad. You try to at least go from anger to feeling sorry for the people who behave and say these things, because honestly, it's a shame that somehow they grew up and actually feel that way. But you try and put it aside. Don't bury yourself in it as much as you can.
And I think that every woman right now in the community is trying to make a change, and I think it is changing for better.
Slowly, and I will say, and it's something that I've mentioned over and over again, because I came into this community in this space having no idea what it was going to be like. And obviously I did it sort of off of my daughter's coattails when she became very visible with the job, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I think I've sort of created a little bit of an identity and a uniqueness to myself. I'm far older than the average person that you're going to be talking to on your show. I'm a little bit unique in the dynamic that I have, that both of my kids are designers. And I tried to make it fun, and I've tried to do things that were, humorous off of all that. Sometimes I've gone a little too far with the, am I going to get the game director position that Blizzard is currently now interviewing for? Probably not, but I am going to put out a resume that people can look at, and that should be fun, hopefully. But it's sort of that, uniqueness that you try to get involved with. And when I first started doing it, I didn't know how it was going to be taken. I certainly could have had people who reacted as though it was, absurd and cringe, as they say. And it wasn't. People who, found it funny and found the interactions that I had online with Cora were entertaining and interesting, and they were so supportive. And then, sort of I got to the point where I started doing some, more extensive things with a resume that I put out years ago, and then with some of the videos I started doing. And the community was so supportive about it, and they want to see you do well, and they want to lift you up. And they, if you're doing things that they enjoy, and you're certainly embracing and welcoming of everybody else, then they want to hold you up. And that's really great, because I said early on, had some of these, big streamers and content creators not sort of acknowledged what I was doing and say positive things, I sort of would have just shrunk into a corner and not really kept doing it, because I would have felt embarrassed about it or out of place. And that wasn't the case. And it really is an amazing community overall.
definitely. I do think we have the best community game wise on Twitch. But yes.
Yeah, it is really something to see.
So you're talking about pushing limits. Did you on Twitter? Did you ever regret a post that you did?
Several times. I have, as much as I said, I do believe I have a very good relationship with my kids. I have been taken to task by Cora at times for some of the things I've done that I thought were funny, and typically the line I tend to cross. I certainly don't do anything inappropriate. I'm not going to work blue. I'm not going to be offensive in that way. Typically, it's crossing the line from sort of the fantasy of how I'm working side by side with my kids, and I'm the IT department here at the Blizzard Chicago campus, and sort of crossing into the wait a second, you're using Blizzard logos in some of your things, and I'm sort of, I joke I'm on a first name basis with their PR department, and they have me on speed dial. There have been a couple of occasions where I've put something out that I probably should have thought 2 or 3 times about and scaled back before I did it, because I do sort of play a little bit into that theory that I'm doing these things, and I try to put the disclaimers out there. I did a piece that was sort of a Blizzard Chicago campus photo album that I think was online for all of about 20 seconds before I had to take it down, but because I had used Blizzard logos and symbols and different things, and so there was a very polite communication saying, "Hey, Cora, could you ask your dad not to do this?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I certainly didn't mean to upset anybody." And yes, absolutely. What you tell me I'm sort of going a little bit too far, I'll be happy to dial it back and try and straighten it out. And then, months go by and I forget, and maybe I do something I shouldn't have again. But I try to make it as completely obvious as possible that I'm being funny here. I'm not being serious when I talk about applying for the jobs and expecting to be game director or the work that I do for Blizzard. I am not a Blizzard employee. I have applied to work for Blizzard in the actual professional IT capacity that I do for a living, but I am not actually in any way, shape, or form part of the design team. I do not contribute towards the expansion sets. Much. A little.
Wow. So was there ever a moment when where you posted a tweet and then Cora just like run and knock on your door and be like, "Dad"?
Not typically. Some of the stuff we've gone back and forth. I'll reply to something she posts and joke about it, and some of the funniest stuff we've actually done has been the sort of stereotypical daughter being irritated with her dad. The way she reacted when my card reveal video came up on your screen. I think one of the things she first said was, "Don't ever tell your parents what you do for a living. Don't ever let them see anything you're doing on social media," because they might want to be involved with it. So obviously there's sort of a dynamic there that is fun when it's not really something she's angry about, and that thankfully really hasn't happened much. And when it has, like I said, there's been a couple of things where it's like, you should have known better, you shouldn't have done this, we had this before, you're right, I'm really sorry, let me take it down, let me sort of make sure we don't go there again. There's been a couple of times, not recently, thankfully, and I did just put out a video a week ago that was a pretend card reveal for her set that I thought was pretty well done. And I didn't get anybody yelling at me from that. So I think maybe I finally figured out, sort of, even when I do Blizzard and Hearthstone stuff, the way I need to do it so that hopefully I don't make anybody mad. In the past, when I've put out some jokes and some things that were just absurd, I've had people in the community not realize I was kidding and say terrible, mean things to me, but not my daughters so much. I remember a good example is when Sage got hired on the team a little more than a year ago. I put out a tweet about how now that I have 2 children that are on the Hearthstone team, anybody who'd like a card named after them or a set, a hero buffed. If you want me to try and make something work for you, just let me know. You can pay me and I'll take care of getting it done for you. Somebody actually thought I was serious and thought that I was, shilling my influence in the Hearthstone community so that I could get cards named after people's kids and stuff. I'm like, I thought it was absurd and that nobody would take it seriously. Apparently, I gave too much credit to some people who actually thought I was willing to accept money to go and tell my kids, quick, name this card after Susie because somebody paid me money. It just sometimes it happens. Yeah.
If a new card is called Susie, I'm gonna die.
You never know. Hopefully not. That seems a little lazy on their part if it comes out that way.
Or maybe one card is gonna be JustAGuy.
I absolutely am. I will never, ever, just for the point of emphasis, you will never see a card that has any direct influence for me. Have they occasionally, upon some idea I may have thrown out or some card that I may have tossed out at some point, sort of pulled a bit of an idea out there and used it? I'm sure they have. I think I just posted something a little while ago about everybody talking about Theotar and the nerfs needed because that card is too powerful. I posted a card I came up with 3 years ago called Swaparama that was, you take a card from your opponent's hand, they take one from yours. I'm like, hey, you obviously 3 years later remembered this idea I had and stole it from me and turned it into a card. But there's no way to prove it. So I'm assuming it may just be circumstantial evidence. Who knows?
So talking about Theotar and the nerfs we got this week. So I think it was, Theotar being a card that was very controversial on social media. I think you probably saw it on Twitter. It was, people would hate it mostly, and the people who would love it would probably not write about it on Twitter. So, how do you feel about the nerfs this week?
Thought they were okay. I think, the biggest issue that I sometimes have with the community is the way some people tend to express their discontent with the current state of the meta. I understand if you're a Wild player and it seems like, Wild isn't getting enough attention and there's just some disproportionately powerful cards and decks out there and it doesn't feel fun. I understand being unhappy about that. Hearthstone's a game. I understand games are supposed to be fun. You also need to understand that there are only so many people working diligently with limited resources and limited time and a wide scope of responsibilities that not everybody can address everything that everyone is unhappy about. And they do actively and just with such emphasis try to focus on things that need to be addressed so that they can make the game balanced and they can make people enjoy the game as much as possible. But the people who are so toxic about it and the people who are so negative about it and the people who say such awful things about the quality of human beings that the developers are because apparently you're unhappy with one aspect of the game, get over yourself. There's no excuse for it. There's nothing about Hearthstone that should ever get anyone to the point that they are so unhappy and so angry that they literally start messaging hate mails to my daughter's email. There's nothing that could ever be done with the game that will ever excuse that kind of behavior. So the patches and the adjustments and the nerfs and the tweaks that are always going to be part of it, it's a reaction. It's you put the cards out, they do everything they can beforehand to make sure that they're balanced and tested as much as possible, but obviously it's a small sample compared to when the cards are live and you have millions of people playing decks. So when you actually do see that some cards, like Theotar, are getting more play than what they expected and that there's obviously some people out there who are unhappy about the way that it changed the game, they do want to address it. But at the same time that you're unhappy with 40 card decks and you're unhappy with someone taking a card out of your hand, there's all kinds of people out there who love it. They love the experience of creating new decks and new content that didn't exist before these cards came out and they don't want it changed. So you can't make everyone happy, and you never will be able to. But it's okay to say, I don't like this, and can you address that? What isn't okay is to start trying to take people to task because you're so unhappy and your life has been made so miserable because this card was released and hasn't been nerfed at this point that you think somebody out there needs to pay the price for it. That's never going to be okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. But it must be hard, like, definitely, to see the criticism and to try to adjust it, and you never adjust it enough. And I mean, it's never enough, the patches and the adjustment. So
there's so many cards. There's so many. I mean, every time they release a new expansion, it's all these new dynamics. It's new keywords. It's new cards and interactions that they don't always have the ability to anticipate. And the community is so creative. People are going to start putting decks together to take advantage of some of the exploits and some of the things that might not be balanced that you don't always expect. There are some deck builders out there that are just amazing in what they come up with and the things that they put together. So, and again, they are reactive to it. That's what you want from the game designers and from everyone working on the team who puts these things together. You want them to, at some point, at least acknowledge what's going on, communicate with the community, and let them know that, hey, I hear you, I understand. And I think they did a great job of that with the latest patch notes. That they basically went over and addressed the things they changed and why. And then they talked about some of the things that they didn't address yet and tried to give at least some insight into, hey, we've got some things going on with the next expansion that we really think 40 card sets are something we want to hang on to for right now. Because I think you're going to want to see how some of these new things work that you don't know are even coming yet. And I think that's a great explanation. It's like, hey, we will make changes in the future if we need to. We're not ignoring these things, but here's why we're leaving them alone for right now. So give it a little bit of time, and have some fun. And the game is so diverse at this point. And I'm as absolutely an average general gamer as can be. If you're having an unhappy time in Wild, go play Duels. If Duels isn't balanced and you're having a bad time there, play Arena. If Arena is sort of getting a little stale for you, try Battlegrounds. There are so many aspects to the game that you don't have to just stay locked into one thing, that you can have the variety. And here's a crazy idea. You can go play a different game if Hearthstone isn't working for you for right now and come back to it. Leave for a few days. Take a break for a week. If it's, if you're grinding at Diamond 5 and you just can't hit Legend and you keep losing to the same decks on ladder that are just driving you mad, take a break. Take a step back. Go watch a Netflix movie. Spend some time with your family. It doesn't have to be so intense and so aggravating. That there are alternatives that you can sort of take advantage of.
Go touch grass.
Yeah, isn't that nice sometimes? Believe me, with my kids, they're working all day in their computers and they enjoy gaming. So when they're not working, they're at their computers. So at some point, I mean, my son's been living at home his entire life, and there are days where literally I have to go, is Sage still here? I don't think I've seen him in 2 days. Occasionally he'll walk past you grabbing some food from the kitchen and heading back to his room. I'm like, Sage, let's go get some sunshine. Let's have some fresh air. Your room is so warm because your computer's on all the time. It's like I don't have to turn the heat. Let's get out. And COVID was tough with that because it sort of made it even harder to sort of do it. But they've got good friends and they do socialize and they do get out. So it's nice to see.
I'm glad that they have friends.
Yeah, somebody does. Me, not so much. Actually, Discord. I have Discord friends more than I expected. There are people who genuinely are nice and kind to me and supportive, and people who I've never seen in person. That I still feel such a good relationship. Just having somebody text you nice things is really underrated. It's really nice to have.
That's kind of funny. Okay, so do you have a message that you wanted to give to the Hearthstone community before we go on to the food section of the interview?
Sure. I mean, I think I've highlighted a couple of them. The one about to the negative part of the community, which there's a fair following. You can get a nice audience out there, going on Twitch and saying really angry, mean things. If it works for you, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. I think some of them out there have done a good job of trying to sort of course correct a little bit. They've been called out. I certainly went after a few over the last several months who sort of, crossed the line. When I say I crossed the line into, hey, Dad, don't do that anymore. I have never in my life crossed the line into, could you not try and abuse people because they're really, really having a hard time? So the people who are out there who go that way, I would reinforce by saying, hey, take a step back, look at yourself in the mirror, and hopefully figure out that you need to make some changes like most of us do. And then as far as the community as a whole, honestly, the message would be thank you, sincerely and genuinely. And I do tend to have people who go, I'm not sure when you're kidding or not, because you sort of do it so well. Honestly, the people out there who are so supportive of not just me and the silly things that I've done, but my daughter and my son and the Hearthstone team as a whole are really, it means more to me than I can honestly express. The people who have been so kind and supportive. I think several months ago, Ben Hearthstone, who's just a wonderful active presence on Twitter, had, every time I would post something, he would just be so wonderful and supportive. Called my card reveal the best card reveal in history. Called me a treasure to the community and just, invaluable. And just having somebody say such genuinely kind, nice things to you and be so supportive when, you have to understand, you turn a camera on and you go out in front of thousands of people. And there's got to be massive insecurity about whether you're going to be accepted. Are they going to like what you're doing? Are they going to say mean things about you? Are people going to try and run you down, which sometimes they also just like doing that? Having somebody say nice things and positive things and supportive things is just, it's amazing. And this community, by and large, is exactly like that. And it's really wonderful to have.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, so now we go into the difficult part of the interview, the
goodness.
food section.
Okay.
So yes, let's have a different question that I usually ask people, because this is gonna be like funny for the Hearthstone community. If we would go in your fridge, what would we see right now?
Wow, it's a mess. I have 2 children who I respect immensely for the hard work and the dedication they have in their jobs, who couldn't put a bottle of milk back where it should go to save their souls. So typically, my wife or I will rearrange the refrigerator usually once a month, pull everything out, get rid of all the expired stuff, all the empty bottles that somehow find their way back in, and sort of make everything neat and put it where it's supposed to be. And then you'll give it a day or so, and there's upside down and sideways things and open packages of cheese and different things all over the place that shouldn't be there. And you just sort of shake your head and go, at some point, my children will have their own place and their own messes, and we won't have to do this anymore. But we've got, as far as like go-to stuff in my fridge, there's, lots of sliced cheese, big cheese fan. My wife is much more health conscious than I am, so there's a giant bag of power greens, all the different healthy green vegetable leafy things to make salads and fry up. Typical stuff for the most part, nothing too out of the ordinary.
So, but the cheese, that's important.
Well, you're French Canadian. You know how important cheese. Of course, my standard in cheese would not be anywhere near. I'm talking sliced Colby Jack and pepper jack. There is a nice hunk of feta that we usually have at least one of in there. A year or so ago, there was a big TikTok trend doing this feta pasta with the tomatoes. We've done that dozens of times. It's an easy, quick go-to dinner, and the feta just can't argue with feta. My people have invented some wonderful quality things in life, and feta is one of them.
Yes, I do love feta. And I did try the TikTok recipe once, and it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you like cheese. So top three cheese in your opinion.
Feta's right there. Sharp cheddar.
Okay.
Really like something with a nice flavor. You'll want to put together a nice charcuterie every now and then. So that's always sort of a nice little fancy snack thing with the crackers and the different cheeses. So we'll usually pick up something a little more interesting when we're shopping. So some wine infused camembert. There are some nice, really smoky Gruyères. So I mean, getting something that's not typical for the regular cheese rotation is important. So variety. It's sort of, I've said that about the way I like to play the game. I don't like to play the same deck all the time. I like to mix it up and change things around because I get bored easily. I'm sort of that way with my cheeses as well.
That's good. That's good. I like that. I like that. Are you a coffee drinker?
Sure.
Do you drink tea too?
I do. I enjoy tea very much. It tends to be a little seasonal. I'll drink it year round, but once, sort of the leaves start changing and fall starts creeping in, you sort of get this reminder, deep inside that, oh, I need to bring the tea out again and go through getting those back into the rotation more than I had been. So, oh yeah, tea's wonderful.
Are you a cook?
I can cook. My wife certainly bears the brunt of the cooking around here. But yeah, I actually, from way back when, culinary classes in high school, all those years ago, when we used to use stone fire. Fire good. Yeah, I can cook. I can follow directions. I can bake. I will throw together different things here and there with different results. But yeah, I absolutely can.
I think your children don't cook very much, right?
Once in a while, Cora more than Sage. Sage is very, very sort of structured in the things he enjoys. Likes sort of the same things. I keep saying that eventually when Sage's tastes in culinary cuisine will vary dramatically when he ends up with a girlfriend, and the girlfriend says things to him like, "Hey, you should try this," and then Sage will say, "Of course I should." Because when mom and dad say, "Hey, this is really good, you should try this," what he says is, "No, I would like to eat what I already know I enjoy." So at some point, I'm sure there will be a wonderful, lucky girl out there who will meet my son and realize how amazing he is. Take my word for it. Just like my daughter is. But COVID has sort of stunted a lot of social interactions. So we're hoping that sort of expands soon. We're actually looking to, the house is sold and we're packing up all of our stuff and we're moving out to Irvine, out in California near Blizzard campus, so that they can at least start going in on a hybrid schedule, so that they can have some interactions outside of the house, which will be really nice.
Should we start a dating show for them, just so they can meet?
You know what? I'm
Hearthstone
sure
people?
they'd be thrilled with that. I'm sure both of my kids are going to be so excited if by some act of God they actually watch anything I've done, which they never have till now. If they actually go and sit down and watch this stream, it'll be because they want to see you more than me. But yeah, I'd be happy to take applications. My kids are both amazing people with great jobs. So being able to sort of, and I will be absolutely precise here, I will be the most picky, demanding parent out there when it comes to, filtering out the applications, because not just anybody is going to be good enough for my kids. That's a fact.
Okay, good. Well, I will post something on Twitter asking them if they would like to follow your recommendation into dating on Twitch.
Yes, submit those to me. Don't bother my kids with anything directly. You're gonna need to come straight to me, and then we'll figure out what we go.
No. I'm gonna post it on Twitter to see if they agree with that.
Oh, sure, that's fine. You go ahead.
I'm excited.
That crossing the line conversation that we had before might be part of it.
Well, let's see. I will put it up, and if they ask me to put it down 20 seconds later, I will.
Okay, there you go. If PR contacts you for a change, that'll be fine.
Yes. I'm not much of a troublemaker in life.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're mentioning that Sage is eating quite the same thing. What is his go-to in his linear food?
Pizza.
Pizza.
Sage is not just any pizza. He likes the pizza that he likes. We just had this conversation last night. We're like, hey, what should we get? Let's order something. We didn't have time to sort of throw something together, and the time was getting a little late. We ordered Jet's Pizza, which is, we all enjoy that. They have a nice gluten-free pizza, which my wife eats gluten-free, and so that makes her happy. There's so many varieties. Really nice, sort of a Detroit style, really thick pizza. Enjoys that very much. Pizza Hut is sort of a standard go-to. Not my absolute favorite, but he enjoys it. Wendy's spicy chicken nuggets. Big fan there. Here, we're telling you, you wanted Hearthstone insider secrets on this show. You promoted that super exciting mystery guest. Well, here I am telling you that most Hearthstone developers really enjoy Wendy's spicy chicken nuggets. So maybe I can get a promotion out of this. Wendy's, if they want to DM me, go ahead, hit me up. I'll be happy to work with you guys. We can do something.
Okay, good to know. I'm writing it down.
Sure.
So what's the kind that Sage eats then? He eats only like one kind?
As far as like pizza and everything, he likes different things. He's never been sort of the wide color. Cora would try anything. And like I said, they're different people. Sage has always sort of found his niches and the things he's comfortable with, and just he doesn't find any reason to, if I enjoy eating this, why do I need to try that? And so he does have his sort of, focus group of foods that he tends to go to typically. Sushi, big fan of sushi. I have never been quite as much, but that's one of his go-tos. So yeah, there's some variety there, but it's he likes his staples and he enjoys, sort of revisiting those instead of having to worry about having to invent new things that he needs to try.
So sushi and pizza.
Sushi and pizza. Sushi, pizza, pudding, pickles. No. Yeah. Sushi and pizza. That's a pretty...
And
there's a lot of variety.
Pudding and pickles.
Pudding, pickles.
Something else.
He does fine. He's happy with... I rarely ever hear him complain that there's not more variety in his diet. So Cora usually gets bored of things a little more easily like I do.
Okay. So, pizza.
These are the hard-hitting questions. I should have prepared.
Yeah.
I should have prepared more for this.
Everyone is always a little surprised with the food section. Okay, good. Also, do you like wine or beer?
I enjoy both at different times, depending on the mood.
Okay, good. Are you more of a beer or wine fan?
Probably wine more often. Not to say I'm an alcoholic or I'm drinking currently. Probably more. If end of the day, after work, sitting down, taking a break, glass of wine usually is a go-to. Beer fits a very nice purpose. Football games on. That would be our football, not the round football that you guys pay attention to. That's a beer time. That would be an odd time to sit down and watch a game and drink a glass of wine. So yeah, it depends on the circumstance.
Okay, good. Beer with sports, wine to unwind.
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so now we're at the viewers' question. We have a couple. And so let me go and check it out. So, how hard was it to keep your involvement in Cora's interview secrets?
Oh, the card reveal
Yeah.
was difficult to do because obviously we are currently all living together still. And being able to sit down and turn a camera on and, try to go through a couple of different takes that I did for the actual recording itself was difficult. I had to go and sequester myself down into the basement and try to do it at a time where I know they were working so that they wouldn't be paying any attention to it. And then having to go and put it together and edit it without somebody walking in and looking over my shoulder. It was a challenge. It was difficult to try and do it where, I didn't let on in any way, because if she had seen any of it, if she had seen, my printing out the card that I used in the reveal and putting together the video, she would have instantly known something was up. So yeah, it actually, I was really happy that it turned out where she was completely caught unaware. So it went well, but no, it was not easy.
Good. And do you have a podcast?
I have one episode of a podcast. I did a joke episode of a podcast called Driving to Work. One of my friends, who I sadly have never seen in real life, is JustAGuy, who lives in Australia. And he's an amazing podcaster who has well over 1,000 episodes of his Walking to Work podcast. And I just thought the notion that somebody plays Hearthstone while they're walking to work was so silly that, how do you do that without getting hit by a car? That I decided to sort of take it to the next level, which was I would do a podcast where I actually play Hearthstone while driving to work. So I did do one episode of that amazing podcast. I don't think there's going to be a second. I have been doing some serious content for the first time ever. I've been working with another friend of mine, Tito Santana, not the wrestler. And we've actually been doing a new series called Watch This, which was his idea and his sort of concept. And I've just been sort of assisting with a lot of the editing and putting it together, where we're attempting to put together these sort of 2-minute short, easy to consume video pieces that are highlighting some of the lesser known streamers and content creators out there that really should get more attention and should be introduced to a wider audience. So hopefully people can identify that these are people they'd like to follow and watch. So we've just started doing that. We've got 3 or 4 episodes out, 4 or 5 more that we're currently working on. And that's, it's nice because it's different than anything I've worked on before. There's no jokes in it. There's no sarcasm. There's no bit. There's just honest trying to put some content out there that I think people will enjoy, and that really does a nice job trying to focus on some of these different community members and these different content creators. And I think that's underserved at this point. So it's really nice to work on something that's constructive like that.
And serious.
Yes, which again, the fact that my face isn't in front of it, nobody sees or hears me, adds to the credibility that, oh, wait a second, this might actually be something serious. So hopefully it gets the attention, because the worst thing would be to turn trying to show some of these content creators and give them a nice vehicle to promote themselves. You certainly wouldn't want to do that as a joke. You want that to absolutely be serious. So,
of course. Okay, so another question was, what is your opinion on if Hearthstone Blizzard should use more pros and community members as playtester for new expansions?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea at all. I had the same suggestion that I mentioned to my kids, because they are, they play test, all the time, ongoing. And they will have, hours and hours on certain days scheduled where they're play testing the current expansion. And they're working with cards that don't even have images at this point, trying to sort of see all the different dynamics and balance cards and look at the interactions with all these other cards. And it's difficult to do. And I think at one point they even mentioned that they sort of had to draft an engineer in to sort of participate so that they had 4 people so that they could actually play. And I do think that if you looked at some of the real quality, capable, professional gamers out there that are active in the community, and you threw an NDR in front of them so that you didn't have to worry about any of this becoming an issue as far as stuff getting out, I think it'd be a great idea. I think it's a resource that I think they would be, really, really happy to participate and help sort of craft and mold the conversation of the expansions that are coming out. And anything that sort of frees up the time of the people who are trying to work on, the card mechanics and the set design and the actual production of it as well, sounds like a win-win for both sides.
Okay, good. Well,
now, having said that, will anybody pay any attention to anything I said? No, of course not. Why would anyone pay attention to anything I had to say?
Okay, well, that was the last question from chat. So yes, Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It
Thank you
was
so much for asking me. And again, I want to apologize to everybody who tuned in thinking they were going to see some interesting, exciting mystery guest, and instead they got stuck with me. I also want to say that I hope whoever your guest was supposed to be gets better soon. Whatever they came down with that didn't allow them to be on your show, that you actually reached out to me so I could fill in. I hope they get over it soon. I hope they're back and feeling, healthy and ready to go soon. I'm sure you've had some really great names that you've sat down with, whether it was Ridiculous Hat or Kriparian, or you just did one with Tice, for goodness sake. I'm sure people are like, Crip, Tice, JustAGuy. One of these doesn't fit. I'm not sure who it is, but we'll figure it out. I apologize to your viewership. Hopefully I haven't damaged your brand any more than necessary.
It was great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I hope you're going to have a lovely end of the weekend. And stay tuned for my Twitter post. Let's see how long it's going to be posted.
Oh, at least I didn't do anything to get in trouble this time. Not too much.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. And have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye.